Thanks for listening. If you like the candid discussion and are seeking the truth behind the mainstream narrative, then please subscribe and share. Not only am I grateful, but those who seek the truth and wish to empower themselves and their family's health, freedoms, and future will also be grateful. Welcome back, folks. Where you been? Oh, no, it was me. I've been gone. I've been busy. I've been having to stay bottled up for some not so comfortable things. More will come out as we continue on here. But once I have gotten restarted here, there are some really burning topics I'm excited to talk about. These challenging times and the things that I've been doing politically, when I say politically, legislatively, on behalf of our profession and on behalf of my patients, people's rights. So this last 12 weeks has been a very busy and active time for me as I was going around the state speaking on health freedom. This was a request by some colleagues of mine and obviously patients and people throughout the state. So the impact we looked to have was to address questions to a problem people are having every day when government overreach is infiltrating their lives and impacting their lives. People deserve to know their rights. They deserve the rights to choose on many levels. And so when this has become a part of coercive efforts, then people need to unite. So many of my community want to make this political. I mean, you just take yourself, look on social media and watch the political side taking, the political divisiveness, the choice of either or and nothing in between. And this is part of the creation by our government to basically objectify your points of view. And they've really taken out the gray area. So you're either or. And personally, I have a problem with that because you and I are more than just an idea or a perspective on one thing or one area. But yet they've all been combined into this amalgam, this pile of things that all automatically just get bulked together. If you choose and look at it this way, well, then all of a sudden everything goes with it and you're either or. So instead of highlighting what it is we want to do from, are we going to argue? Are we going to debate? We don't have to necessarily debate. Let's have a conversation and a discussion. But I really had to clean up the point of what is my message and what do I want to share and what do people need to hear. And I'll just qualify the need to hear. It depends on who you are and where you're at. I'm not telling you I know what you need to hear, but what I see as a problem every day in my communications and speaking and addressing questions and having people come up to me and say, hey, I really resonated with what you said. How can I proceed forward with my family in this arena or my employer or my kids in school and sports? And honestly, the easiest answer is, well, it's different for everybody, and it depends on where you're going to take your stand. But this isn't about being right. This is about, and I don't mean left or right, I mean correct, right, like there's only one way. This is about following your heart. This is about being true to you. This is about being true to yourself and your family. So this kind of prequel towards where this podcast is heading, and then the creation of a new podcast I'll be creating. And that's where a lot of this came from, is what is it that people need as a solution to move forward with their families? And I think it's a combination of things. For one, you've been completely misled about where health comes from. And the only support you're getting is that it's outside in, that it's a drug or something that's going to make you healthy from the outside in. And this is extremely far from where health actually comes from, because that's a claim that's made in the pseudoscience world that has to take ownership of all disease and then be your solution, instead of you having your own solutions or you having your own empowerment, your own innate ability to manifest health. So the combination of you understanding where health comes from, truly being educated on what health is, where it is, how to achieve it, how to express it, how to support it for your family, how to develop it for your family. This is not there's a mainstream gimmick towards all of that. Like, if you do this, then you have that. If you do this, then you have that. It's understanding what your body is telling you through a series of symptoms and expressions and body markers, and then being able to relate what those markers actually mean. Understanding your body. And then doing it in a unique and individual way, because we are all unique and individual in our abilities to express health. And it'll show up differently for different types of people, for different family histories, for different family and genetic histories. But I want to assure you that you have the power within you to take hold of this, to be your solution. The second thing is understanding that you can't avoid politics. You can avoid discussing them, but what is politics, right? Politics, in this case, to simplify, is the world with which you operate. Okay, there's politics in everything. So when you got your relationship to the world has to do with some politics. There's going to be viewpoints that come through, and those political stances, those movements or agendas are always operating. Do you have to choose a side? Not necessarily, but we talk about equal and opposite. That means for the exact way you feel about certain things, there's someone who's going to have an equal and opposite point of view to that. And if you think you're going to come in and change someone's mind because of your values, then that's going to make it a very complicated situation. Not only are your expectations flawed, you have your own agenda to change someone's mind versus allowing them to have their state of mind, their state of opinion, their perspective on things, their point of view. And again, these are multiple ways of stating that perspectives vary through people's experience, an individual experience. So what makes sense to them doesn't make sense to you, and vice versa. And yet, in some areas, you might completely agree. But again, the perpetual nature right now is to find where you're different and be divisive. And I'm not a fan, because we're more alike than different. And when it all is said and done, we're not all in this together, as the cliche the government wants to say, because we're not the government. You're not the government. And you're in it with your brethren, with human beings. That's how we're in it together. Regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, we are in this, both of us together. Why? All of us together. Because it doesn't matter what party you're choosing. What you have to get clear on is, what do human beings all want? What is it that you will fight for? What is your standard of living that you will defend at all costs? Are you going to let someone else choose that while you stay asleep? Or are you going to allow yourself to participate in your own life? So being active in this arena for me is an invitation I can say no to. But it's not about me. It isn't about my comfort. It's not about my security. It's not about a fear that I might have. It's about what happens if I sit here and do nothing while I know how to help, while I know deep down I want to contribute, that I want to impact people and make a difference. And I know I can, because I have, but I'm literally just scratching the surface of that. But it isn't about me. I have to get out of the way of my own fears, my own insecurities, my own inadequacies, my own self-doubt that the message is going to be understood every time I say it or share it or express it, because it won't be. Nor will yours. But are you willing to share it anyway? Are you willing to get yourself in front of people to share your heart? So sharing my heart doesn't mean I'm making someone else wrong. Sharing your heart doesn't mean you have to make someone else wrong. You're literally finding a way to express your God-given ability to speak and allow others to hear a message that may resonate with them. The message I have is of empowerment. I believe with what I do chiropractically, let me rephrase that, because that was actually a mistake. I know that the body's self-healing and self-regulating when the body has a chance and the ability to express itself fully. The chiropractic meaning of life is the expression of innate intelligence through matter. The expression of innate intelligence, the onboard intelligence that animates, that gives your cells, every cell in the body, an expression, the ability to manifest health, to adapt to the world, is an innate ability. It's inborn. You have it. That's what makes you alive, a vital being. The opposing argument from the mainstream medical industrial machine is that does not exist, but man controls disease. Man can control the body. There's a transhuman effect that is being pushed into your psyche to disempower your own gifts, your own innate gifts. In this battle between the two is being leveraged by science and pseudoscience. So when they say the science is concluded, the science is never concluded because we are always learning. And science welcomes questions because that's how we grow. That's how we learn. Everything is in comparison to what's happening with nature. So if the sky clock, so to speak, which is our sun, our atmosphere, our environment, our universe, the sky clock is going through a seasonal, very predictable pattern of movement that generates life and certain starts and stops in our environment. For example, the Great Barrier Reef spawns every time of the year, the same in this window that operates with the sky clock. I don't have to get into that in this episode, which we will upcoming with some cool interviews I'm looking forward to having. But the real key here is to grasp the wonder that goes beyond our actual knowledge of things. But that knowledge can hold the wonder, the space for wonder too. So knowing that we don't have all the answers is a great place to be. Of course, we continue to ask questions. I'm always asking questions, but I'm okay with not having an answer and moving forward by what we do know about the universe, by what we do know about nature's program, by our ability to actually, the body grows. You don't start and stop your growth unless you mechanically impede it or chemically impede it, such as thalidomide back in the 60s. And for many of you, you know what that is when pregnant mothers were given an anti-nausea medication called thalidomide that actually created and disrupted the developmental stage that the fetus was at that time. So infants were born with flippers for arms and legs and or no limbs at all. And so based on the time that drug was introduced in terms of the fetus's growth. So we know these things create a change in the body when we put chemicals in there. And so how do you support nature? When is it appropriate to support nature in your body? When is it appropriate to take, quote unquote, the medication or the injection or the jab or whatever it is, medicine in the whole mainstream is pushing on you? When is it appropriate? And what do you have? And that's different for you and that's different for me. And so my knowledge base and where I research tells me when it's appropriate for me to utilize something of that invasiveness. And that there are risks to doing that. And there's many risks that they're not telling me, but I do understand with my clinical experience, 28 years. So when we look at that comparison from each, and we actually can generate a knowingness and a body of research that allows me to critically think through this and not just believe what I'm seeing on the mainstream media, what I see in basically the mockingbird media. What allows me to have a perspective is my point of view that's been built up over time, and I'm constantly challenging that. But there's certain foundations that are held true. And one of them is it's like gravity. It's a universal law on this planet, on this place. And if you doubt it, you can doubt it all you want, but it still exists. Gravity does not care. The body's self-healing and self-regulating. The nervous system controls that. It's a two-way feedback loop. Your body is always seeking homeostasis. It's not just seeking it, it's supporting it. When it struggles with homeostasis, that's when the body's leaning into sickness and death. Dis-ease, where the body's struggling to hold its balance, but it's still working on homeostasis. I'm going through a general understanding here, and I'm bouncing around with a couple different ideas, but here's why. There's so much to talk about to empower you, an individual, that you have to become aware of certain belief sets have to be broken down, but first you have to be willing. You have to be aware that there are belief sets, that those belief sets may not be true. My question back to you is, if you knew something that you thought were true turned out to be false, how soon would you want to know? If you thought something was true, but it turned out to be false, how soon would you want to know? You get to answer that question. You get to turn the other cheek. You get to say, hey, this guy's trying to push an agenda. Or you get to say, I'd want to know right away. Okay, then. That's what I intend to bring to this audience, is solutions, ideas, concepts, questions. I want to challenge my listeners. I want you to think. I want you to develop your own point of view. But I want to bring you perspective that allows you to open up to see things differently so you can grow, so your family can grow. Bottom line is so you can grow, so you can expand how you see the world, so you can participate on a different level, so you can use all your gifts, and ultimately to empower you with choice, to continue to make the choices you like to make, want to make, need to make, or expand those choices to lead to better results. I'm excited to bring a different flavor to this, and I had to really hone in and ask myself deeper questions as to what I want to contribute and how I want to do it. I'm not going to make these rants, but I'll be terribly authentic with you. I'm going to tell you when I'm pissed about something. I'm going to share disgust. I'm going to share frustration, but I'm also going to end with solutions, because that's how I work through every day. That's how I work through my clinical experience. That's how I help patients solve problems. If I don't have the answer, I go look for an answer. Or if I can't solve their problem, I refer them to somebody who can. And I want you to see and hear and feel what that's like, to accept you as you are, love you as you are, and move this collective consciousness by just being responsible for yourself first, being accountable for your behavior and your actions, and knowing that you're co-creating these things. But if you always rely on someone else to solve these problems, you will forever be struggling and a victim, creating victimhood by the results of your environment that you've actually chosen not to change or impact. I say that with love and compassion, that many of us aren't taught or even know that we can take charge of certain things. And some of us haven't started out on the right track to be able to have that experience. So it seems far-fetched. It seems unrealistic, unrealized, and impossible at times that you can even do that. But I believe in you, and I believe in everyone, that they have the possibility for greatness. And that's what I intend to help show people. So I'm very excited to be back and communicating with you, because there's a great need now, more than ever, for leadership in this arena of healthcare. And I'm not claiming that I'm the leader. I'm claiming that it's amazing how many people don't understand what health actually is, but you're not really designed to get it through the media. That's exactly what programs you to chase your tail and buy all these products and never really achieve or acquire health when it's right in front of you. So that said, until next time, I'm excited for these upcoming episodes to shed some light in many interesting areas that I've had in-depth conversations about. So I will see you then. Ciao. Okay, my fellow health warriors, it's time to head over to iTunes, franklyspeakingdrwade.com. There, you can rate, review, and subscribe, as well as share, so more of our brothers and sisters can grow to realize their voice and their health freedom. Speaking up means you matter, so get on it. This podcast is for information purposes only. The statements or views expressed are not medical advice and are not meant to replace the advice of your medical doctor. This podcast, including Dr. Wade Anderson and his guests, disclaim responsibility for any adverse effects you may experience from the specific use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse and accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about the guest qualifications or credibility. This podcast may contain paid endorsements and advertisements for such services or products. Individuals on this podcast may have direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical condition, consult your licensed physician.